Before 2008, most people didn't even care about Iron Man. He wasn't Spider-Man. He wasn't Superman. He wasn't anyone's favorite. Just a rich guy in a metal suit from a comic book that few people read. But then something happened. A movie came out. Everything changed, not just for Iron Man, but for the whole world of superheroes. It wasn't just a film. It was a moment that started something much bigger. It gave us heroes that felt real. It gave us a universe. And it all began with one man who didn't have powers, who didn't wait to be chosen, and who built everything with his own hands. Asterisk, this is not just about a superhero movie. It's about how one story turned into a worldwide legend, and how Iron Man became the reason we even care about the heroes we love today. Tony Stark was the kind of guy who had everything: fame, fast cars, and a name known all over the world. He made weapons, sold them to whoever paid the most, and didn't really think about what came next. To him, war was just business. But all of that changed the day his own weapons were used against him. Got caught, injured, locked in a cave by the very people who had bought his bombs. And for the first time, he saw the damage he was doing. Asterisk, instead of giving up, he built something. Not to escape, but to survive. A suit made from junk and hope. That cave wasn't just a prison. It was where Tony Stark was reborn. He didn't come out with powers. He came out with purpose. He knew he couldn't fix the world overnight, but he could start with himself. That's when the man who once only cared about money started to care about something else, people. When Tony finally made it back home, everything was different. He stood in front of the press and shocked the world, announcing that Stark Industries would no longer make weapons. People laughed. Some got angry. His business partners panicked. But Tony didn't care. For the first time, he wanted to do what was right, not what was easy. Asterisk, but walking away from his past wasn't simple. Enemies started to appear. Friends started to turn cold. Even his closest partner, Obadiah Stane, began to work against him. But Tony didn't stop. He went back to his workshop and built a new suit, stronger, faster, smarter. Not to sell, not to destroy, but to protect. Asterisk, he didn't wear a cape. He wasn't born with powers. He made his own path. That's what made him different, wasn't? Chosen to be a hero, he chose to be one. Even when it hurt. Even when he had to face his past. That was Tony's first real step toward becoming Iron Man, not the suit, but the choice behind it. In 2008, no one really believed that Iron Man would become a big deal. Marvel was struggling. They had sold off the rights to most of their popular heroes just to survive. Spider-Man, X-Men, and the Fantastic Four were all owned by other studios. That left Marvel with a risky plan to take a lesser-known character, Iron Man, and build something new. But there was another risk. Robert Downey Jr. He had talent, but his past was full of problems. Some people said casting him would ruin the movie. Asterisk, but when the film came out, something clicked. It wasn't just about the action or the suit. It was about Tony Stark, a man who felt real. He was smart, broken, funny, and trying to be better. People connected with him. The movie didn't just make money. It changed everything. For the first time, a superhero didn't have to be perfect. He just had to be honest. Asterisk. And then came the final scene. Short, quiet, but powerful. A man steps out of the shadows. Nick Fury. He talks about something called the Avengers Initiative. In that moment, Iron Man wasn't just a movie. It became the first piece of something much bigger than Marvel's cinematic universe. Iron Man didn't just change movies. He changed what it meant to be a hero. Before him, most superheroes wore masks. They hid their real names. They kept their feelings inside, but not Tony Stark. He stood in front of the world and said, "I am Iron Man. No hiding, no pretending, just truth." Okay. That one line flipped the old rules upside down. Asterisk, he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He had a big ego. Sometimes said the wrong thing, and often acted before thinking. But he learned, he grew, and people saw themselves in him, not because they were rich or had suits, but because he was human. He struggled, just like we all do. And still, he kept trying to do better. Asterisk even the heroes that came after him, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, even Black Panther, were shaped by the world that Iron Man helped build. He showed that a hero doesn't have to be born special. Sometimes it's just a person who decides to change. And in doing so, helps others change too. Tony Stark started off as someone who only thought about himself. But by the end of his journey, he was the one willing to lose everything for others. After years of fighting, learning, and growing, Tony finally had peace. He had a family, a little daughter who loved him, and for once, he didn't want to wear the suit. He didn't want to save the world. He just wanted to be a dad. Asterisk, but the world needed him again. When everything fell apart and half of all life disappeared, Tony found a way to fix it. He solved what no one else could. Cracked time travel, he could have stayed home. No one would have blamed him, but he chose to fight one last time. Not for glory, not for himself, but for everyone else. Asterisk, and when the final moment came, when all hope seemed lost, he did the one thing only he could do. He used the stones. He snapped his fingers. He won the war, but it cost him his life. There was no speech, no final words, just silence. Because real sacrifice doesn't need a spotlight, it just needs heart. Tony Stark may be gone, but what he stood for isn't. His story didn't end with his death. It lived on in the people he inspired. Peter Parker still looks up to him. Pepper carries his memory. His daughter will grow up knowing that her father didn't just build machines. He helped save the world. Asterisk outside of the movies, Iron Man changed how people saw superheroes. He showed that a hero doesn't have to be from another planet or born with powers. A hero can be someone who makes mistakes, learns from them, and keeps going. Someone who builds, protects, and cares. Not because they're perfect, but because they choose to do the right thing. Asterisk Tony's journey was never about the suit. It was about the man inside it. And that's why his story still matters. Not just in film, but in life. Because Iron Man proved something powerful. You don't have to be super to be a hero. You just have to try.